All right, hi everybody. We're going to stumble through ArcGIS Pro in an attempt to create a map for the High Atlas Foundation intervention sites, the villages that we'll be working with, and I guess this will be hydrosite villages, and we'll wait for this to open. It's going to open, of course, on the United States, which is not what we want. We are going to go immediately to map and go to base map, and we're going to put in the imagery hybrid, which puts in a world imagery map and a hybrid reference layer. And the world imagery map is this one, and the hybrid reference layer lays on it different boundaries, those artificial boundaries that we create. And of course, we're going to be going to Morocco, but we'll get there by going to locate. And when we are in map and locate, we get this locate window here. And here's where we're going to go to our database. It was sent to us by the High Atlas Foundation, and they have in the municipality of Fadma, they have a place called Anfli, and it shows up in the mountains there. And there are the coordinates. So I'm going to take the GPS coordinates, the lat long, and copy those, and come in here and search for those coordinates. And when I hit enter, there we go. So we're on that village there. And then I have to put a marker in so I don't lose that spot. So I right click and I put add graphic, or I can add to feature class. But most people just start by putting in a graphic. There's a graphics layer. We'll double click on that and we'll call this the, I guess, locate graphics layer is fine. That's the name of the layer. And we will go to graphics and we will find a triangle because it makes it easier to see, and put that in. I'm also going to make the triangle 20 points. So it's not just a tiny dot. It becomes a little bit bigger. And now I can deselect or clear the selection because I don't need that selection yet. And I can go off of that. If I did select all, that would come back. Clear the selection. So there's a marker there that I can use. And I can also now search for the next one. It would be nice if I had some attribute data on this, but I don't have that yet. So partly what you can do is we could select it, but there's not much going on here because there isn't any data in there. What you really want to do for that is get out of here and let's go into our not our analysis, but into edit, and let's create features. And what we want to do then is, there's no editable layers here, to create a feature because we haven't yet created any feature for it yet. So what if we were to create, modify? We don't have any layer here. So let's see if we were to make a layer on there where we can add some stuff, because these are not editable. A graphics layer is not editable. So let's make a new layer in here somewhere. So what we're going to do is, because it's not at all obvious how you can create a feature layer that you can edit, is you need to go to the and let me find it here. We need to be able to add a feature layer, and that's by going to View and then go to Reset Panes and Reset for Mapping, and you'll get the catalog layer here. The catalog layer is where you can do all this. That's what messes a lot of people up in ArcGIS Pro. They never knew how to find the catalog pane. Now, the catalog pane can be brought up. If it's not there, you can make it show up by clicking on catalog pane, but I always just go to Reset Panes to the mapping default, and it should show up there. Then you go to Database, and it's made a database for your file. And it's in this database that you add a feature class by right-clicking and then saying to make a new feature class. And then you can name it. And if I want to have a point feature class, like that little marker there, I can name this feature class village point, for example. And I'll make it into a point, and then I will say next, and I can add a new field to it, and I can say village name, for example. And a lot of people like to put in a village ID, which is not text, which is a number for sorting purposes for data later on, make a short integer. That is up to you, village ID, then the name. And then as you click through these, it decides what Mercator you're using, or rather what coordinate system. I just skip right through those and I go to Finish. And now I have a feature class that has been created in an editable layer, and it comes up called Village Point. And then if I want to add a village point to this, then what I do is I would go to Edit and go to Create, and then in Village Point I can create a point. I can put it right on that dot where our GPS came. I'm going to move up a little higher and put it right in the village. And notice it's really tiny, and I don't like that. So I think what we'd want to do then, after we've created that point, is come in and edit it, and that has to do with going to the symbology. So you go to the right here and go to symbology after right clicking there, and then you can change the symbol to whatever you want to. If I want to use a pentagon, for example, and I want to make it bigger, then I can, let's see how I can get back bigger from there, the properties, and I can tell it that I want it to be 20 point, and it didn't work, so let me try it again. So 20, enter, and it should get bigger. Let me try 40. We ain't doing a whole lot. Apply, that's why. Okay, that's too big now. So let's go down to 20 and apply. And I don't like the color, so let's make the color, let's make it red, and apply. So you can't see it because it's selected. That's why it is, why it's that color, but when we add a different one, we should see it. But we're not, so it's blue just because it's being used, it's being actively worked on. So that's a village point. So I'm using locate graphics layer as that one, and then the village point layer is my other one there. We're fine with that. Eventually you can do unique symbols, and you can classify by that ID so you can see what villages are doing what projects. We won't get into that yet. What we're going to do now is go back to the locate graphics layer, and we're going to go to the locate tool under map one more time. It's actually several more times, because we're going to do all the different points that are in the project menu, which is somewhere, I think it's here. All right, so we've got Anfley. Oh, which I should have put on there, by the way. I should have put Anfley in our village point for that. And to do that, we need to get to the database layer. And it's done by calling up that attribute table. And you will see that there's the village name and the village ID. So the village ID, just for fun right now, I'm going to put in 1. The village name I'm going to put in is Anfley. Actually, I should put another column in here. And that other column should be the coordinates, right? So if I want to do that, then I need to edit this. And to edit this attribute table, let's see. So here we have it there, attributes, and can I add another field? It does have longitude and latitude anyway. Oh, look at that. It already has it because it's on the map. But if we wanted to have that information somewhere, then we would go into edit, attributes. Let me close this down and let me see if edit will let me change anything in there. So add data, no, select by attributes. Give me a moment here. Of course, then what we want to do is we want to right click on village point and go down to data design and go to fields. And then we can add a new field, and I can call this field coordinates and make the data type. I'm not really sure about that data type. Is it supposed to be a double, a float, a long? Text is easiest for now, so let's just leave it text. And then when I go to, if I save this and get rid of it, save, unsave changes, this should be saved. So data to save is disabled, right? There we go. So we've saved it and applied the changes, and now we have in it coordinates. And then when I go back to my map and see, right click, open link, a new tab, these coordinates, they are a number, but they're not a number because they have N and W in it. So I'm just going to copy that. I'm glad I used the text field. And then when I go to this data attribute table and it comes up, for this, I have now the ability to jump in here and put in those. All right, so we've got that. Now, the next point that we want to add is we will go to the catalog again, which should be under view. Let me reset the panes. And now we want to add another point here. So we should be, when we're here and we're on village point, if we go to add to current map, then we should get, or did I mess up here somehow? In village point, no, I didn't want to do that, so let me remove this. We're in village point, but we want to add another feature. Add to new, manage data design. What we need to do is to go back to edit, because that's what we're doing, is editing. I'm going to put in another feature in here, but we have to find the place that we're going to put the feature in somewhere down here. But of course, we're going to do it by going back to the map here and to our High Atlas Foundation and the village of Timici comes in. And so there's Tamichi. Grab those coordinates, Control C to get it into the memory, and then come into the map, locate again, and paste that in. And there it is. And as usual, add a graphic. And that graphic, as usual, will come in here and pick triangle. I'll make it 20 again. And I have that graphic in to find it. You can see there was our original. There's that other one. Ground truth this by looking at the map that is here. And yes, those are the rivers over there. So Anfli is there, and there's our one there. So that is correct. And then here we can deselect that. We don't need this anymore, but we need to add a point in our village points because this is still on the graphic layer and that is not editable. So in village point, we want to go to edit and say create. And in create features under village point, we want to add another village point. And so there's our little polygon hexagon, and you can put it right on top. I prefer not to, just to keep them separated. So I'm going to put it over here so I don't get confused. So I have a feature there. Then this feature, when I go to open the attribute table, I can put in a village ID of number 2. I can put the village name of Timichi and the coordinates that we had. They might still be in the buffer. So yeah, they're in the buffer. All right, so we've got that in there. Let's go on and do several of the others. So we're going to go to the next part of our document. And after Timichi, we have Acuerd Nortin. And I'm going to open that up and copy that and bring that in. Map, locate, there it is. Make sure we get that graphic in the map and go to graphics. Oh, we're still in that layer, that's why. So get back here, and when we add graphic, we should, we're still stuck in this. Maybe I didn't hit save or something. That's quite usual. So I need to save things before moving on. Save that edit. And only then can I go back and do another action. So now that I've saved, now I should be able to get to graph. Still no? Seriously? What you doing? Oh, why won't you let me in there? Is it not saved yet? Should be. Let's see if I close this. No, I'm still stuck in there and I don't want to be. It's like I'm still in create and I don't want to be in create. So maybe if I turn off create features, there we go. Now I'm okay. So now I go back to the locate graphics layer and I want to change, it looks like it put a default graphic in, which is not what I wanted. So let me change that graphic and bring it to 20. And there we go. Okay. So I got that graphic on the map. Now if I go into the village point, it should be this next one, which is a place called Acuerd Nortain. I'm hoping maybe I can, yeah, I didn't want to do that. I want to be able to not have to type it. Trivial, I know. So can I just grab it from here? Yeah, okay. Control C. Let me put this village name in. And we have to again open up the attribute table. And this one would have to be a new row. And we'll call the object ID 3, and we'll call, I don't know what the shape is. Oh, we haven't placed the shape yet, have we? Okay, problem there. We needed to go to Edit and Create a new point there, which should be somewhere next to this. I'm going to really zoom in. It's really weird. Like, what is this location? So if we do create this location, and we then go to, close this. If we go there, is this even where we want to be? It's up the river from there. So let me see if something went wrong here. This place is a water tank. And yeah, it's right up the mountain there. That's where the water tank is going to go, I guess. So we're fine there. And if we do that, then we should be able to, and I should be able to clear selection here. I should be able to get my attribute table. Yeah, so this looks like I've got too many points here, and I need to get out of create features. So that goes away. So that one here is, there's that. It's not highlighting, but the one that is blue should be this guy here. The village ID will be 3. The village name is Acuer Nortan. And the coordinate is here. All right. And then we need to save this. Now, this other one here that I sparsely created, I'm going to remove this if I can. Delete row, because I don't need that. All right, so I have these 3 points here. Time to go in and create another one. So now we're on Tunquiste. Okay, Tunquiste. So let's find that. There's Tunquiste. Let's make sure that we put in graphic so we don't lose it. Okay. And now we can deselect. Got our graphic in there, and now we need to go and add a village point. So we'll go to Edit and get rid of the locate, and we need to go to Create and create village point, and we put that, so we put it right next to this. If we have to move it later, we shall. It creates another object ID, and then we can put in it the There. Quiste. So a lot of time doing the setup. This 4, and then the coordinates are not you, not you, it's you. All right. And that's important in case we lose it at some point, or if it needed to be spot on, like right on top of that, then we can place it on there. All right. So we're beginning to populate our map with different locations, each of them with a name. There is, of course, the ability to add more data. And I guess since we have these 4 points in, we might as well add some more data to it. And that would be involving going into the data design again and adding fields. So maybe a field that we should have, let's see what we have in terms of information from the High Atlas Foundation. They give us estimated number of people, number of households, activities, and percent complete. So all that's supposed to go on a map. So you would take the estimated number of people and come into the data design and add a new field and make it data type, of course, is going to be text. And the field name is going to be estimated. Oh, didn't put everything in there. So estimated number, oh, because it has to be all, no spaces. Estimated number of people. No, I have to say number of people. All right. So we have that there. There's another field that we're going to get from this database, which is number of households. So let's put that in. Number households. Let's go here to make this text. And then we have activities and then percent complete. So, oops. Activities. Again, it is text and then percent complete. And then that can be a number, and I think it's a percentage. I don't know, double float. I'll just make it long for now. All right. And now let's save this, if we can, from here. All right, so we've saved that. We can close this out, save this, apply the changes. Now when we look at our data table, our attribute table, we see that this one here, point Tangiste, if we go into here, then Tangiste has it's 100% complete, 55 people, 15 households. So 55 people, 15 households, activities, we know it's 100% complete. And then for activities, it is piping for potable water and irrigation canals. Maybe we can just copy that in. Activities. Yeah, I guess that worked. You have to be a bit longer. Oh, did it work? Or did it not work? There's no way to... It's all there. Maybe we need to bring this back and bring this back. And we could further separate this data out, of course, but I think that's as far as it's going to go. Unless I did that. So now we have the ability to add that data in here. We can do that for each of these. We have Red Nortine is 153 and 36. So let's go to 153 and 36. And put in the activities. And I think it's 100% complete also, is it not? Yeah, they're all 100. Well, those are all 100% complete. So we know these are each 100% complete. I think I'll go back later and do this because I'm okay with this now. We see the procedure. We're going to add that for all the different points that they've given us and make our table look good. So we're all right there. It's time to go on to another procedure. We can always come back and do this part later. So the idea today is to look at how to add information to each of these sites and not have to always reinvent the wheel. We want to be able to create a model builder. We can apply the model each time to a different site. One of the things that we need to do is we need to get the appropriate DEM or digital elevation model data for these sites so that we can see them in 3D. You can do that without that because this has its built-in 3D information, but it's not very fine. And you would do that by going back to map, and you do that by, I think, is it in map? It should be in map. Oh no, it's insert. It's insert, and you go to insert and new map, and you want to do a new local scene. When you open a new local scene, a new map is going to open here, and wait for it to be created. And it's going to take a while because a lot of memory. And it's got world elevation 3D terrain. But of course, it doesn't have our information in it from this map. So we need to go into the scene now. And in this scene, we're going to go to our view and find our catalog again. There's our catalog pane. And if I take this village point and I drag it in to here, into this map anywhere, it's going to zoom over to that part of the world. And this part of the world has, as you can see, all this 3D terrain information. All right. So that's Morocco. And that's the mountain. And there's our points. You can kind of see them peeking their heads up there, although they disappear when we go to the map because they're like way underground somewhere because it was from a 2D map. But they're there somewhere. And that's what happens. So what we probably want to do is see if we can make these bigger and also make them easier to see by making them red maybe, and then coming over here and right clicking and going to symbology and making a symbol that is not 4 point but maybe 20 point again, and then applying it. Maybe then we'll begin to see that they're supposed to be in there. They're in there, so there they are. See how they're underground? So hard to see where they would be when you look down into the terrain of the map. But there's our points over there. And you can, of course, add in here that base map that we had, the imagery hybrid. It'll wrap that texture onto that 3D terrain so that you can get much more detailed terrain look over here. So that's kind of fun. I do wish that I could more easily get those points up. Let me see if there is any way to do that. If we single symbol, there's not a right click on there. It'd be under here, under symbology. Yeah, it's advanced symbology options. Sample size, nah, not that. Transparency. Yeah, not really sure at this point how you make those show up. But at least they're in and we have that terrain. Now, this map, as I said, is the map that is supplied by Esri. What we often want to do to be able to get our own map in that might have a higher resolution or be better for us. See, your points definitely show up when you get out of 3D elevation and they just get buried by the mountains when we click on the elevation. What we might want to do then is go to our USGS site and when you're at usgs.gov, go to Earth Explorer. And you get to Earth Explorer, open Earth Explorer. You have to have an account to do this. And in Earth Explorer, enter your search criteria by, in our case, an address or a place. And let's get that village of Timici and see if anything comes up. Timici, Morocco comes up. So there's Timici. And that's that whole region that we're in, is the area near Timici. You can tell if you look at our map. I mean, really, we want to be able to look at the topography from all of this region. And our Timici is somewhere in here. So to get that information there from all these maps, we need to get a coverage area of a digital elevation or SRTM. And so when I say use map, I could get all of this and then see if there is a data set that covers all of this. And the data set that I want to use is under digital elevation, and it's the shuttle radar topology mission, the 1 arc second, which is about 30 meter, and then see what the results are. And let's see if I look at the footprint over here. That's too low. We don't want that one. That's not going to help us. This one here, too far low. This one here covers some of it, so that's a good one. So let's download that one as a GeoTIFF. And let's also see if we can get this other section over here. Do they have it? Yeah, they do. That one there. So those are the maps that we would want. Maybe we want them all. I mean, we should, if we're going to do work in the whole region, why not have this entire area? And so that's okay. Let's do that. But our priorities were this purple one. All right. And another priority is underneath here, the yellow one, which I think is this one here. And after that, let's get the purple one over here. Is this the purple one? Oh, I thought we already had that. All right, so we have the yellow one. We need the green one now. So there's our green one. Let's get that. All right, so we should have now the digital elevation map for all 4 of those quadrants that we got. And you can see what they look like if we click on them here. You can see what they actually look like in terms of digital elevation maps, that they are black and white rasters where black is deep and white is high. And here we have them all in 3009, 08, oh, 908. I guess I downloaded one of them twice. One is 09, there's 09, there's 08, and 3009 and 3008 and 3109 and 3108. No, I'm okay. I'm good. I got all those now. All right, I have those TIFFs, and I'm going to take them and I'm going to go to my downloads folder, take them out of my downloads folder, so I will cut them, and then I'm going to put them in my GIS photos. That's where I keep all these things. So where's my paste? Should be able to paste right there. All right, I've got these now in there, and I think I'll also, no, I'm good. So I could also make a separate folder for High Atlas Mountains SRTM Shuttle Radar Topology Mission Maps. And then let's put those in there. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And bring them in so I can find them more easily. Alrighty, so now when I go back to Arc and I go to my map, I can bring in here these maps by going to my HAF Intervention Site Village database and creating or linking to a new folder, which oh, wait a minute, I have to think this through again. I'm supposed to be able to import feature class table, no, add to favorites, show in File Explorer. No, folders. I don't want to be in the database. I want to be in folders. That's where I want to be. Yeah. So in folders now I can add a folder connection. And that folder connection is going to be to my ArcGIS, where is it? GIS photos. There we go. So I'm going to add that folder in there, and then I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to make it a default. And in there I have these photos, and I'm going to find then that folder, which is the High Atlas Mountain folder, and take each of these and drag them right onto the map. And something is supposed to happen. Supposed to happen? Let me just try one at a time. I'll actually drop them here. No? Drop it here? Okay, that's weird. Band 1. Maybe I have to drop it like that. Yeah, that's what I had to do. Band 1, there it goes. Let's get into here, drop band 2 in there. Not calculating statistics, no. There we go. Band 3. All right, and now this one here. All right, so I have this information in here of these. We'll do the same thing in the scene, but we're going to drop the bands from the scene into the elevation surface. So these are going into the 3D layers. We're supposed to. didn't work. It went into the 2D layer, so let me bring this into 3D layer. I think I just drag it down. Yeah, should be that. There we go. Now we're getting there. So drag these down and drag this down out of the 3D, out of the 2D layer into the 3D layer. All right. Now, let's turn off the world imagery. And we see that the world elevation layer that it has, the mountains, is based still on the one that Esri had. So I'm going to turn that off. Now we have our map information just from these, so that when we zoom in, the mountain information is based on our DEMs. These are the ones we brought in. We had this one, but we're not using that. I'll show you if I uncheck these, everything is going to be 2D again. But if I come in and let's see which one of these works for that area, has coverage. I don't think it's band 1. Yep, it's not band 1 because band 1 is the information over here. It is probably band 2. There it is. Yes, it is in band 2. So for memory's purposes, you can keep a lot of these bands off. Whereas the world elevation was the entire world, and that uses a lot of memory. So we're going to keep off the ones we don't need until we need them. So we had done 4 of these. These are the 4 that we brought in. We don't need all 4. So let's just focus on that when we're looking at our map and save ourselves some computing power. And as you can see, when we zoom in, there are artifacts, but that is the information. I'm not sure if those are that because of the hybrid reference layer. No, it's not. But we have the ability now to zoom in on that at this 2-meter distance. These gaps, I'll have to ask about why we're getting those gaps. But that is the information that we have from that DEM that we pulled off right here, this top quadrant. So it is, that is what that's the data that we're looking at, this DEM or SRTM. DEM is digital elevation map, SRTM is shuttle radar topography mission. And that's what we've brought in so that we can save memory and just look at that particular slice. You know, if I turn that off and go to the world elevation, it doesn't have any of those gaps. So there are times when you may say, well, I only then want to use the world elevation that they have, but of course that's the entire planet. And we have Chrome info right there. And it's wrapping information around. All right. How is this then valuable? Well, when you have this topographical information, then you can start looking at flow analysis to see how water would flow down these mountains. And that's where we're going to get into the model builder that we're going to create. All right, so if we want to do a data analysis on this, then we have to run several tools from the analysis, from the toolkit there, which then shows up on the right side. I asked ChatGPT to tell me how to do it and to do a hydrological analysis using my STRM data to simulate the potential impact of pollutants from washing clothes in the streams downstream, and it gave me a step-by-step guide how to use hydrology tools in spatial analysis. So if we're going to do it alone, single-handedly, then we would do as it suggested. We would go to, the first thing would be to prepare the data, making sure that the SRT-MDM data is loaded in our map view, and it is, right? So I'll go back to the map view because that's where you do the analysis. And there is our SRTM data. We don't have to look at all of it because it's not relevant to the project. So we can get rid of that, or not get rid of it, turn it off, and we can turn that off. So we're just looking at that SRTM data set. And then the next step it tells us to do is to be projected in the local coordinate system. But we've already done that. Fill sinks. So there might be depressions in the data that could disrupt the flow of water. Maybe that's what those white things were. So it says to go to Analysis tab, select Tools, search for Fill, and then run the tool. So if I come here and I go in Geoprocessing and I go Fill, then Fill is right there. It fills sinks, and it will ask me to do the input surface raster, and that would be that band that we have on the screen right now, which is N3108 band 1, N3108 band 1, so N3108 band 1, and then there's a fill for that. Oops, I messed up the name. N3108. That is what we have here. And then you have a fill, and I'm not putting in any Z limit because it didn't ask me to. That would be the Z axis. I'm just going to hit run, and it's going to fill it in, and it seems to take a while to calculate. Again, there we go. So it's filled that data in. I don't know then if I have that fill layer, if I add that fill layer to this scene by going to my view and making sure that my mapping catalog pane is there. If I put in the fill band, and I'm not sure where the fill band is. Where would the fill band end up? I've got to look at my output from here. So there's fill, and where is it? It is in properties. I don't know where it goes. Where does that happen? Fill, because it's not going to be in here. It outputs somewhere else. I did not pay attention to that, so maybe I need to do this again. I'm going to remove it, and I'm going to try this again by going to my geoprocessing tools and go to fill and say fill again, and it is here. It's the 38, what did we say it was? 3108, and the output surface is called fill, but where did it go? So it went into home, it looks like, unless it did go in here. It should have gone in here, fill, but it didn't. Yeah, so it's ending up in home GIS photos. Well, that is what I want it to go. Output surface raster. So it wants to create a name called fill. Maybe I'll take this name and tell it, so fill, and then underscore N31 underscore W002, but I'm going to put TH to distinguish it and save it there. How was it telling me can't save it like that? The length of the grid name is longer than 13, so I can't use TH, but I do have now that location, which is fine. But it didn't tell me. Well, maybe I'll put it in the High Atlas Mountains thing, because then I'd know that it came in right. But it's still not. All right. fill underscore N31 underscore W002. That's where we're going to save it. And then we'll run it. It says it's completed. Well, it's running. And then it creates a fill layer. And if I then go to my scene and in my scene I want to pull that fill in, I'd have to go back to the, there it is, there's my fill layer. And then I can drop that fill layer in here and see if that makes a difference as opposed to this one here. Didn't seem to do much, not in terms of those white bands, but that's the data layer that we're going to be working with. I thought maybe it would erase those white things. All right, so we have a fill layer now. It's in there. And now the next step that it says to do after filling the sinks, run the tool, create a fill DM, okay. Flow direction tools. So you want to go for flow direction and choose the default flow model and run the tool. So let's go back in here and let's go to geoprocessing and let's go for flow. There's flow length, there's flow distance, there's flow direction. It told us to do flow direction. So we pick flow direction. Our input surface raster is the fill one now. The output's going to be called flow, and the D8 is the right one. Force all edge cells to flow outward. Do we want to do that? Choose the default model. Doesn't say to do that. Okay, so let's get our flow direction going out. The type is still D8, which is what it told us to do. And so you would then go in here and run this model. And once you have that, you get these colors. And the colors are really interesting because the colors do say a flow direction. And if you want to know what that flow direction is, you have these colors that have an indication. And while it doesn't say it, we can add it to the database so that we know. So I'm going to open up the attribute table, and I'm going to have to add a new column for this. So once again, let me actually do what we did before. Let me right click on data design and go to fields, and let me put in here a new field, which is flow direction, and make it a text, and then save this. All right, and close that up, because now when I go to flow direction and I go to the attribute table, I have the value and I have the direction, and chat did a nice job of telling me what that float direction was. It's right here. So one is flowing east. So let's grab that, come back into our map and say one is flowing east, two is flowing southeast, and three, or rather three, which is value 4. Value 4 is flowing south. Value 8 is flowing southwest. Value 16 is flowing west. So these compass settings. Wait. So this is flowing west. Value 32 is flowing northwest. Value 64 is flowing north. And value 128 finally is flowing northeast. And that now is in the database, and if we save that, then we should see when we look at it, when we really zoom in on this raster, into the mountains, we would see that these are the flow things. So when you look at the color and you look at, for example, this blue number 4, that should be flowing south. And the only way to really check that is to look in the scene. But to look in the scene, we'd have to add that data. And so we have to see if we have this flow direction fill that we can add from the catalog. So if we look, we don't have flow direction. We have flow direction here, but we need to get this as a ping, because we don't seem to have that information that we output from the model. When we were in geoprocessing and we calculated the flow direction, it put it out, but we don't know where it put it out to. Or rather, it didn't put it out to anywhere useful because we didn't ask it to. So we don't want to lose this data table. Let's see if we know where the properties don't really tell us where this is. Source. It does. So it's in HAF intervention site database. But where's the raster information? No, we don't have that. So that data source, let's see if we can find it in our, not this folder here. Let's see if we can find it in the database. There it is. So it's up here, the intermediate data. So if we look at flow direction, we can come to the scene and we can add the flow direction data to this scene as a 3D file. Now, do we get that? Take this out. Or maybe it needs to be up here because it's not a 3D layer, it's a 2D layer. There we go. Now we got it. All right, so yes. So we have a 3D layer. Let's go back to the fill for this. There we go. So now you can see very clearly, because our database is showing up here, and I can even close this attribute table. You can see the blue is flowing southeast, and this is the way the map is looking. You can see that the green would be flowing east. So east is that way. Southeast is that way. You can see the light blue flowing southwest. You can see that the red is flowing south, so directly to the south. You can see that the brown, if we turned the map around, you would have map brown flowing directly north. If you look at the yellow is flowing directly east, which is that way. And we have the, flowing west that way, and the east is the green. So the colors do actually tell you where the water would be flowing in the mountains, and that is pretty cool. And we'll just pause here for a moment. Okay, so that is really cool that the analysis shows us the flow rate. And if you ever got confused about what direction your map was facing as you turn it around, well, just look. If it says flowing east, then you want to make sure that the green is flowing east. And then you have to make sure that the flowing south is the red. So the red would have to go like that. And there's the green flowing east there. So there we have a map that actually works based on color. That's pretty neat. Now, the next task that we would do in terms of geoprocessing is we would run flow accumulation to see where water and potential pollutants from upstream cells accumulate to downstream cells and see where pollutants might accumulate by seeing where the water collects. So we would just keep running on these different rasters that we've created. Flow direction raster is going to be what we're going to input and then run the tool to see accumulation in streams and rivers. So we're going to go to accumulation. There's flow accumulation, and there's that tool. And the input flow would be the flow direction fill that we were using, and then the output would be flow accumulation flow. And we're just going to use the data type as a float. Not going to include a weight raster. I'm just going to run it as it is and let it do its thing. And we'll see what it builds onto this model. And it's taking a few minutes. That's another reason why it's good that we used only this slice of topographical information, because otherwise it would take even forever longer. So here it goes, it's updating, and it has completed it, and there's the flow accumulation that it's put in. And the flow accumulation doesn't seem to offer much in the way of information in this scene. Let's look at it in here. We didn't put the flow accumulation in, did we? So maybe I can just drop it in because it is in there, flow accumulation flow, and drop it onto this map and see. And it doesn't seem to show us much of anything. Why is that? Oh, there it is. It's beginning to show up. There's some flow accumulation spots showing there in this. Maybe I'll turn off the direction and let me see if I turn off DEM that we had in this two-dimensional map. What we're seeing here is supposed to indicate something to us. Let's go back and see what flow accumulation. Well, what are we supposed to know in the legend of this? Flow accumulation, is it that it's down at the bottom down here? Or are those just holes in the data? Hard to really know what those are. It has a value tree there, and if I look at it here, there's the color scheme. It's got min and max, but it's not telling us a lot of great information on that. And I'm wondering why. I think I asked ChatGPT about it. Watershed delineation, visualizing the analysis in 3D, style the layers. You can just add those to it. And I think I asked it, I said when I run flow direction, so I check for forceful edges. Then I asked that recommendation. What are the colors in flow direction? It told me that. And then I said, this is what I got. Flow accumulation, can't interpret it. It all looks black. So it said that we should adjust the symbology to be able to see it better. So it says in the contents pane, click on the layer, choose symbology, and then change the symbology stretch type. Try from percent clip to minimum, maximum, or standard deviation. So let's try that. So we go from percent clip to standard deviation, much better. You can actually see streams there. So that was what it needed to be, standard deviation. But it also told us, because ChatGPT is so fun, minimum, maximum, or standard deviation. In the statistics section, you'll see min-max variables, and then change them from 5 million to 5,000. And then we'll get better from that. So if we change the min and max, you don't get min and max when you're in standard deviation. So if I go to minimum, maximum, then I should be able to use custom. Actually, let me stay on, because that didn't look good. Let me stay on standard deviation so I can see the rivers. But instead of using the data set, I will go to custom or DRA. And I think I asked it about that. And it said, you'll see min-max, maximum value. It won't let me set the maximum value, I said. So I've been through this before, and I talked to ChatGPT when I do this. Do I need to change some data set? It's grayed out because it's still tied to the statistics. So either use dynamic range adjustment or custom. And then custom lets you manually set the range. If you choose custom, set it to maximum to about 1,000. So let's do that. Let's go to custom, and then let's go from maximum to 5 million. Let's go to 5,000. We're seeing things much better now. If we did 1,000, then we see things even better. So we get a better look at the flow here. And then for the color scheme, Chat is suggesting that we make one where we invert the color scheme to make high flow areas lighter and low flow areas darker. And so white is high flow, dark is low flow. We can always change that. So if we wanted to invert it, we'd go like this, and then we see the darker it is, the more flow there is. And we can change the color scheme here to a ramp of bluish, and then we really can kind of see where the water accumulates as a darker layer. We can do the same thing in the 3D scene, but we have to do the same to it. We have to make sure that we're in flow accumulation and that our values are, first of all, inverted. That, second of all, we're not doing percent clip, we're doing standard deviation. I think I should turn off the flow direction now so you can get the flow accumulation in there. So if we make this blue, as we did there, and if we go to the data set and make it custom, then we make this maximum 1,000. There we go. All right, and it kind of it appears there. So now you can definitely see, looking through here, how in our villages, how in our villages the water flows are going to take place, except we still have those data gaps. I'm not sure why that's in there. That data shouldn't show up if I leave my fill map here and I go to the world elevation map. But it was run on data that had those gaps. So I'm not sure, again, why we're getting those gaps. I'll have to ask that, but you can see where the flows really start to go in this map, done by color. And if you really make it into a really dark flow with a lot of contrast, then you can see much better the depth of these things that are in there. All right, so that's flow accumulation, whether on the map or in the scene. And there's our villages there. So let's now look at what the next stage was. We were then tasked with stream network. Visualize that stream network. You can create a stream network by applying a threshold to the flow accumulation threshold. So search for con and then set that conditional raster to the flow accumulation raster. So go to the geoprocessing pane, which is in here, geoprocessing, and it was supposed to be con, and there it is, performs a conditional if else, and the input raster is flow accumulation, and then what we want to do is for the expression value greater than threshold and the output value to 1, no data elsewhere. So where value is greater than, and let's see again, for value is greater than threshold, where threshold could be a value like 100 to 500. So let's try 500, and then input true raster. So the input true raster, input conditional raster, flow accumulation raster, we did that. There's no true raster, output values to 1 where the condition is met. Input true raster, output raster, constant value. So the true raster, if it's true, if the condition is met, we'll put 1, otherwise we'll put 0, and it'll be called contrast flow, and let's see what that comes to. Alright, so 0 is this green, and this is 1, so you start to see the streams show up, so I can get rid of that. And now we can see where there is no, where it's not over 500, and I guess you could mess with that and get various other diagrams for that. That would also be possible to bring into the scene, where you would come in and you would find the con flow and drop that in here. There it is. If we can get it to drop in, there we go. And look at what this looks like in a 3D map. It's nice to be able to keep going back and forth from 2D to 3D. And yeah, so isn't that interesting that you really see where the contrast is for the depth of these things in there, 0 and 1, so you're not getting flows there. So that's kind of nice, right? And nice to have that. So now the next step is to run a watershed delineation. These pour points where water accumulates. Create pour points. Use flow accumulation values to define these points. Add data. So I'm not sure how one does this. You create digitized points over areas of high flow accumulation. This one really messes me up. So create your points. Manually place points in areas of interest or use flow accumulation. Add data feature class. So I guess here, if we add data, a new feature class, and we call it pour points, and it's a point, and then we go on and say, I don't know what we're supposed to add to this, pour point? I don't know. So this one really confuses me, but I'll add it anyway. I've created a feature class. Am I in maps? I should have done that in maps. Oh shoot, I even turned off my map. Why did I do that? Can I go Control Z? It's not going to let me. Oh no. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Oh, this was bound to happen. New map, new global scene, new base map. I don't want to create another new map. I just want my old map back. Oh lordy, why would I do that? Map. I want my map back. Well, I haven't saved the project, but insert a map. A new map. It's not a new map. It's a layout. Report. Import map. Where is my map? Do I have maps? I had maps. There's here in the catalog. There's my map. It's there. It's just under there. So just drop that onto it. There we go. There's my map. Okay. I'll bring it back here. Good to know. All right. So we have this thing about doing pour points, and we were looking at the pour points here. And if you have pour points selected and you go to edit, this is really gonna mess me up. So I have to imagine that these rivers are where the pour points would be. When I go to create, if it doesn't even have a pour point thing to create. Why? Why can't I create a feature? So pour points is there, and I want to add to current map. No, I just want to, oh, maybe I have to add it to the map. So drop it here. There's pour points. Okay, now create. There's pour points. Okay, and I have a pour point. I go, okay, I want to create a pour point. I go right here. That's gonna be my pour point. Is that gonna help? Because then when you go to what it's said to do, create pour points. Manually place points in areas of interest using add data feature class. I did that. Select point geometry. Did that. Digitize points over areas of high flow accumulation. Digitize points over areas of high flow. Well, that's where I did it. I'm just doing one. So now let's see if it even works. Now go to watershed. So go to the geoprocessing tool, which is under analysis and tools. And then with this, we want to find watershed. And then the input D8 flow direction raster is the flow direction raster that we had earlier. So flow direction fill. Flow direction. All right, well, that's that one. And then raster feature, the pour point data is pour points. Right, need to be processed. What does this mean? Only those records. Yeah, I'm not sure how to do this yet. I'm too lazy to try to figure it out. We'll see if this works. Pour point object field is the object ID is fine, and then watershed flow. And if we run it, it says it failed. And that is the same thing I had last time. It failed because I don't know what I'm doing with watershed. So that's as far as I'm able to get in this. And so, and there's visualizing in 3D, but I've done that. And then there's something called cost distance. But you see, all these procedures, I don't want to have to keep going through and through and through because I've already done them up to the watershed thing, which fails on me. So how do I get these to happen anytime I create any map anywhere? And the way that you do it is you create a model. You go to Model Builder, and you add data and tools and connect them to build a model. So the tools that I was creating were, the very first tool is open model tool, geoprocessing, pending edits. I guess I need to save something. Auto save is on. Save is on. I want to insert a tool. So the tool that I want to insert, the first one, as you recall, was fill. And we had fill. And it should let me fill. There it is, fill. Okay, so you have fill, and you got an output surface raster. That was the first one. And what is in that fill? Darned if I know. So fill is the first one, and the output surface raster is that one. The next tool that we wanted to add was the, and let's look back at here. Fill sinks is what we did. Oh, it was just fill sinks. We should have done fill sinks, but we didn't. So let me get rid of that again. Let me delete that. Cut it out. Oh, I thought we were going to get rid of it. Delete. I can't get rid of these things? What? Goodbye. Okay. Let's try it again. So tools, fill sinks. Fill. I guess it's just still fill. And then the next tool after fills was, so fill sinks got it, it's fill, and then you have to add that. Then flow direction is the next one. So flow direction. And after the flow direction, then we had flow accumulation.
I don't need my hair.
So there's flow accumulation, and somehow it's supposed to go and take the input of this one to it, and then from, oh, it didn't work. Why? So come on. Input flow direction raster. All right. And then after flow direction, flow accumulation, there's the output of that. That goes into there. That comes output. And then from that output, we go to the flow accumulation we had, the stream network. So we have conditional tool. That. So that output goes into there. And that's conditional. And then we have watershed delineation with the pour points, which never worked. So those are the basic steps that we needed to take. And if you had flow direction, then the input surface raster could just be taken as that, because we're about to do the fill. So it would be the DEM band, this one here, and then it would go to an output flow direction. And that then takes that data and puts it into, I guess we didn't have fill. I thought we needed fill. So that one goes into fill first, right? So I should be saying fill. And drop that in there, and then this is really supposed to go up to there. And then you go into flow direction from here. Yep, and then we move all this down. All right, so we have a raster that came from our DEM that goes into fill, then it goes to the output surface raster, and then it goes into the flow direction. The flow direction then goes into that output, it goes into flow accumulation, it does that, and then it is supposed to go into con, and here it's the output accumulation raster which it was supposed to make, so I don't know what's wrong there. And then you have to do a select. Value is equal to or greater than it was supposed to be, and then it was supposed to be what we said, 500, and then the input true raster was 1, and the false raster was 0, and then it does an output raster. Okay, so now we got that. So what's going on here? There's the input true or the input false goes in, and it goes into there. And that becomes our flow 2, which was different than the flow 1 there. All right, so if I then get rid of all this information, turn it off, or yeah, I'll just uncheck these. So those are all the 1s, but now we're doing number 2s. If we ran this model, it should produce the same thing on the map. So there's the map with the DEM on it. That's the initial DEM, right? And then we have these steps that we ran, but we're going to run the model instead using that. And if I do that, let's see what happens. We say run, and it runs it, and then it fails to execute and says contact Esri. All right, well, close on completion. So I'm not sure then why this isn't working. It's got a red. The red is on fill 2. Input surface raster. Maybe something wrong with fill. The surface raster was that one, and it should have gone to should have gone to that. But maybe there's a problem there where well, what if we eliminate that and just run it without that if that's the problem? Ooh. What if we say we're going to run flow direction instead? What happens then? So let's run this. And it still doesn't like it. So there's something going on with this model that I'm not privy to. But that's supposedly how you do it. So that is the band. That's the one that we're using. And it's supposed to fill it. And then it's supposed to produce that. And then it produces this. Takes fill from that one, which is what that produced, fill W002. And then it's supposed to take that one and put it into flow direction. And then it's supposed to, we can get rid of the output drop raster. I don't think this is the issue. Ooh. Go to there, and then go to here, and then see if it runs. But it is telling us what steps are messed up. So it says invalid parameters. So just right out the gate, it's messing up. Maybe invalid parameters. Maybe if we look at the map, we're on the right map there, N31. ArcGIS TIFF band 1. Maybe there's a problem with that. Let's look again at our model. We have, this one is band 1, ArcGIS band 1, and then 31. That is the right one. That's the right input. And then that's what it's saying there, but it says band 1, and then it's got another thing 1. So it should be N31 1 instead of 1:1. So I'm not sure why that is doing it. Let's see if we run it on a different band. We done it on that band, and then what does it say here? Output surface raster, all this after the output surface raster after the sinks have been filled. All right, so we have this model now, and then another fill. And then that goes into fill, but we don't need that fill if we have a fill. So we really don't need that. Oh, oops, didn't want to do that. But we don't have the flow direction. We have flow accumulation. This was supposed to be flow direction. So that's weird. We were supposed to insert a flow direction. And then move that flow direction up here and go from there to there. And then go from the output flow to the flow accumulation. That's supposed to be the model. And then when you run the model, it doesn't like it. All right, well, that's the basic concept. I have some more research I have to do into how one can apply the model to the map, but it's supposed to enable us not to have to go through it step by step as we had been doing, so we can run it endlessly on different data sets. So that's it for now. Let's just go ahead and publish this, and you can stumble through, and if you come up with an answer, let us know.